Hi, Jeffrey.
Priscilla, hi. It's been a long
Hi.
time. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, can't complain.
It's awesome to be able to talk to you. Hi everyone. Quick introduction on today's podcast. I'm joined by someone who truly embodies the spirit of bridging cultures through creativity, conviction, and courage. Jeffrey and I, we know each other because we've been family friends for a very long time. We don't look like it, but we have some good years on us, and yeah, we know each other because my aunt and his mom are good friends, and so I have fond memories of playing basketball, maybe with you and your sister, or just being in the same orbit long time ago. So really nice to see and reconnect with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I remember our days in Beijing, hanging out in LA, and yeah, it's great to finally catch up again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the days in Beijing when I would see your face on like a Lay's potato chip, or yeah, I still
Yeah.
remember that because I lived in China twice, and I don't remember which year that was. I was
Hmm.
there in 2006 or five, and then again
Yeah,
in 2011. So you might be on potato chips both those years, but
probably.
it was
Yeah,
really
probably.
fun to like see someone I know on a potato chip.
Yeah, I think I have a bag of those somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, welcome back to the U.S. I know we'll dive into where you grew up. I just so admire the way you've embraced Chinese in so many angles: the language, the music, the culture, and now what you're doing on your podcast.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I do have an introduction on you, and then also just for fun giggles here. Speaking of our times together, you were probably in a lot of like publications, but the fun part is okay. So this is the Sijie Rubal, right? Daily News, and then guess what? Yours truly was also in the newspaper at the
Wow, I
same
didn't
time.
know that. That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, February 19th, 2006. So
I was wondering why do you have that? And then, oh, because you're on it also.
yes, because I'm on there. I went to Neimangu and they were doing an article on ABCs
Dude,
in China exploring their roots.
what are the chances of that? That's amazing. We're on the
I
same
know.
newspaper.
I mean, what are the chances of me on being on a newspaper and then being on the same page as you? So
Awesome. That's serendipity at its finest. That's great.
yeah. Okay, so I have a quick introduction for people who don't know you, but you
Sure.
should.
Thank
So
you.
Jeffrey Kung is a Chinese American singer, producer, entrepreneur, and yes, a descendant of Confucius, which is super
Yeah.
impressive. From topping music charts in China to launching bold business ventures and navigating life between two worlds, Jeffrey's story is one of identity, artistry, and voice. And it's so funny when I look on Wikipedia, it says Crystal Kong's brother, but Jeffrey Kong was like he is the Wikipedia himself,
It's
article
funny.
wise. So it's just funny seeing the difference in America versus the U.S. Okay, so in this episode, I want to talk about what it means to represent both the East and the West, how music and entrepreneurship can build cultural bridges, and why speaking up, especially in today's complex political climate, matters more than ever. If you've ever struggled to reconcile your roots with your reality or wanted to be bolder in your own conversations about culture and identity, this one's for you. Okay, so I thought it would be fun. So I have like four key themes and topics, and
Okay.
I thought it would be fun to kind of weave those in with famous quotes of Confucius. Um,
Okay.
and so, as a refresher, Confucius was an ancient Chinese philosopher and teacher whose wisdom on morality, family, and government has guided East Asian culture for over 2,000 years. His philosophy and teachings on family, duty, and kindness still shape millions of lives today. I think a lot of us may know his quotes and some bits and pieces of his philosophies, but may not attribute it back to him. So two key ones that I love is like do not do others do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. And the man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones.
Hmm.
I don't want to put you on the spot. So if you ever have one that you love, please share that too. Yeah, so the first one is wherever you go, go with all your heart.
Hmm.
I wanted to kick it off by just, introducing you a little bit more about your background, like where you grew up, and what it was like being Chinese American in the Valley.
It's ironic that well, thank you for the introduction. It's funny because my American wiki is very different than my Chinese wiki. So, like, I have a Chinese version of it that's completely different, and it's always been something I found really amusing. But we'll get into, my life here, my new life here. But, yeah, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in Northridge, went to Sierra Canyon, which is very famous now because of LeBron and his kids. And then I went to Chaminade. And, yeah, growing up here, as a Chinese American, it was very obvious that I was Chinese to me, Chinese American, because there weren't many of us where I grew up. It wasn't. I didn't live in San Gabriel Valley. I didn't have. It wasn't in San Marino. It wasn't. I didn't have that many Asian friends growing up. Um, so I guess I grew up mixed race. You can say a lot of black friends, Indian friends, Jewish friends, some white friends, and yeah, very few Asians. But my parents were very Asian, like very Chinese. I don't want to say they were hyper traditional, like you're thinking of like the Tiger Mom or like the docile father. No, it was they were still westernized. My mom was very cool. She was like somewhat of a hippie at some point. Um, but we still grew up very Chinese. We spoke Chinese, yeah, pretty much until I refused to when I was like 5. My Chinese was still my first language. I had a Chinese nanny, who took care of me. So I had this two clear defined cultures. One amongst my friends that I guess what you call more American, or I don't want to say white, just mixed race, and then the traditional Chinese family side of the spectrum. But weirdly, I really wasn't very ABC, if that makes sense, because I didn't have that many Asian American friends growing up, and that kind of came later in life. And then eventually, I went to Michigan for university, even more white. Jesus, that's white. And then I took a year basically to go study abroad in Beijing, to go kind of do a find my roots type of thing, and that kind of changed everything.
Interesting. So, yeah, I'm definitely thinking as you're talking about how I also grew up in the valley. You would pass by 3 temples to go to my house off Valley Circle. And
Yeah.
yeah, most of my friends were also white and mixed growing up until junior high when I went all Asian and would go across the 8th grade lawn linking hands with my Asian friends. So I went from like all white to all Asian, which is weird. But weird in that just it was culturally different and it was hard to during that age and time period you're already trying to figure yourself out. I think that's a lifelong journey. And so yeah, that's why your story is even more fascinating because I know where you grew up. I know you went to Chaminade. My sister went there too. And then to infuse Chinese culture or language is very intentional. So especially as a mom, I have 2 young kids and I feel like I'm learning about Chinese culture through their lessons and their songs and their celebrations of different holidays. But growing up, I didn't really celebrate any of those things.
That's important, right? Like that whole instilling it into your next generation, because we are, I guess second generation Chinese, so we don't want it to get distilled out too much, right? You want to keep. Oh, I think as we get older too, you appreciate it more when you're younger. I was always known as like the most white kid in my family, right? My cousins grew up much more Chinese than I did. They spoke much more Chinese than I did, but as I got older and I went to Beijing and I ended up living there for like 20 years, right? So in China for 20 years. And now my Chinese is better than theirs. And like, I just started being more interested in my own culture and, embraced it as I got older. And even today, it's like, yeah, I'm living in LA, but I'm always thinking, all right, where's the closest vicinity to my people? Like, where can I get the best food at? Where can I get the best niu mian or whatever it is? I'm just like, I understand. I'm very Chinese. I'm very Chinese. So and yeah, and I like it. I love it actually. So yeah, it's great that you guys are you're instilling it in your children as well.
Yeah, no, it's impressive to hear you say that because growing up not so Chinese, whatever that means, right? Like there's the language aspect, but then there's the culture part. And then it's not like
Yeah.
we're gonna go learn about Chinese history on our own. And that's why I was curious, like as a 76 descendant of Confucius, like did your parents like I feel like special just being connected to you and talking to you because you're
Thank
like
you.
of his lineage and I have so much respect for him and he's how he's impacted Chinese American thinking. So how did you go from, so you studied abroad in Beijing, and
Yeah.
then what happened? And actually, let's take a step back. Music, your love for
Okay,
music. I
sure.
think I'm assuming your love for music and dance. I feel like you can do a lot of things. Like, how did you start your music career?
As a secret, because my mom wouldn't let me. When I visited universities, I remember there was at the end of like these college tours, you can ask a question, right? So I think I forgot where it was, Georgetown or whatever. I raised my hand and I said, "Hey, do you guys have a music major here?" My mom just grabbed me and pulled me right down. She's like, "Don't answer that question." And I'm like, "Okay, so I guess I'm not learning music." But I've always had an affinity for it. I sang in high school. I wrote songs, etc. Um, and then, when I went to China, I had the opportunity to, I wouldn't say, I don't even say I tried out, but there was a management company who was looking for artists. And I happened to be there and one of them, and they gave me a shot. So they kind of said, this American born Chinese thing is like popping off right now. This is 2000, right? So that's when like Tao Zhe, like David Tao was coming out, Wang Lihong, the LA Boys, like right after that wave. And yeah, I would go to school in the mornings, and in the afternoons I would go to the music studio to record demos. And that was kind of one of my dreams come true because I tried to intern for music studios in high school. I couldn't because it was just really difficult to get a job. So I was doing a lot of research about it myself, and I was like a studio rat, and I would learn everything, all the ins and outs of every music board, of every recording software, of every microphone, how to record, and I got to fulfill that dream of mine when I was off school. And my parents knew about it, but they were basically thinking, okay, if that's what you want to do in your free time, that's fine. Just get all your schoolwork done and you can do it. And eventually, yeah, it led to a record deal, management deal, a record deal. And one of the best top producers in Taiwan, his name is Zhang Yichan, Xiaochong Lao Su. He did Zhang Hui Mei, like Mei. She did Du Dewei, Alex To, a plethora of other. He's like a godfather of pop. He got a hold of my demo, and yeah, he said I'm going to sign him, and we released an album a year later, and then a year later after that, I got the Golden Melody Award for New Artist of the Year. So yeah, it's kind of like a Grammy over there. So that's kind
Wow,
of how it all started, and yeah, to the much shock of my parents, I ended up just living in China for 20 years.
that's so crazy. So, no formal musical training? Did you like sing for fun? Were you in choirs? Like,
I'm a
did you play
Chinese kid,
music?
right? So like we took like everyone that gets piano lessons until they're in third grade or fourth grade, and then you get into sports and start doing other stuff. But yeah, no real formal yeah, training at all. And my family's not an entertainment family. My dad's a doctor, so yeah, I just kind of loved it and I just kind of did it and had the talent for it. So it just kind of started from there.
That's amazing. Also, when you're talking about research, I appreciate it because we grew up around the same era and time, and it was not we didn't have cell phones, right? Or we
Yeah,
did have
nothing.
cell phones, but it was like the big clunky one, and it's not like we could search the internet or anything. So you had to be
Yeah.
really resourceful to find information.
Yeah, basically was on this. There was a website called Gear Sluts. I mean, it's really more about music recording gear. And I would just scour through that just hours and hours and just self-taught. Like, this is even before YouTube started, right? YouTube started in 2005. So YouTube University wasn't even an option yet. But nowadays, I mean, it's just, you could do anything. You could find anything. So I really feel like I've always been that type of risk taker, I guess. Just always, why not me mentality. So yeah, just went for it.
That's awesome. And I feel like music is a great way to bridge cultures, but I'm wondering like what did you sing about? I feel like there's relational songs, and then
Sure.
like what kind of topics do you write about and sing about? And how has
All
that
right.
changed
Well,
over the years?
okay. So when I started out, I wanted to be, like a Justin Timberlake, a pop singer, a rapper. I was one of the first people to rap in Chinese. At the time, Korean hip hop had a moment. Like there was like DJ Doc and Jin Yusan, but like Mandarin didn't have it yet. There were a few who tried it, but there wasn't anyone, nothing like it is today. So at the time, everyone was saying that we can't write that, so you have to write it yourself. So I started writing it. And you want to be a player, you want to be a rapper. Like I was just kind of rapped about a lot of cliche topics. Yeah, but it was I feel like I did my part in proving that you can rap in Mandarin and make it sound good. It's just that at the time no one had done it yet.
It's not even at the time. Like, who does it now? And I could be out of touch, Jeffrey.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a huge now. It's huge now. So in China
Not
right now,
like the
rap is
80.
probably the number one
Yeah.
music.
Who should we know about? I think most
Oh,
people who
there's
are
so
listening to this
many.
are
I
here.
mean, right now the biggest group is Higher Brothers. Like I had a radio show called The Park in China, and then we had a mixtape with a bunch of like really great rappers. Like, um, if you're into like really underground stuff, Insar in Three Beijing, they've been banned now, but they were amazing before. But there's so much, and a lot of it right now is they're using like Chengdu Hua, so they're using a Sichuan dialect for a lot of new rap, and that has become almost the new de facto dialect for hip hop in China right now. And if you ever have the chance to go to Chengdu, it's an amazing like cultural just punch in the face when you go there. It's crazy.
That's so funny. It's like literally a punch in the face because you don't eat the hot food.
Oh
And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
panda, and now I can go listen to some Chinese hip hop, I guess,
I'm
maybe.
telling you, when you get there, oh, it used to be called Chengdu Citadel, so like the Amsterdam of China, because it's
Oh,
so like first of all, like location wise, it's very far away from the capital, so it's on like the west coast of China, so you don't really get as much regulation there, and it's just culturally boiling over there. There's so much going on. Um, it's part of their culture, anyways. Sichuan they they're they're known for their passion for life and entertainment. And if you go on the streets of Chengdu, like it's packed with people, like just lounging or going to restaurants, or going to music bars, or it's just everything. It's fashion. It's everything. It's probably my favorite city in China right now. Yeah.
really?
Oh,
When are
but
you going back?
by pretty far margin. I mean, Shanghai is a close second. Beijing second. Like I guess Beijing and Shanghai neck and neck. But Chengdu is like if you're looking for like young youth culture and want to feel the energy of China, Chengdu is where to go right now.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
It was on my list already for the panda and the food, and
Okay.
the
Well,
close.
kind of Berlin, like Melbourne, Berlin, London. It's got like
Okay.
that grit to it, and it's freaking crazy. It's fantastic.
I was there over 10 years ago now, and I think what like I hear sometimes Chinese citizens that live here now, they get worried about going back there and only being able to use, I don't know, WePay or whatever it is, and being
Oh
charged
yeah.
things. And for some reason, even though I've lived there twice, I'm like nervous about if I ever went back there too. I don't know even know what I'd be nervous about, but is that like a perception you hear often, or is that just living in my head?
I do, but and it's a valid perception because it changes so fast. Like I haven't been there for a year and a half, and I feel like when I go back, I'll be going back sometime later this year. It's I'm sure there's going to be drone delivery, or I'm going to see robots on the streets, or like it's very difficult to process how fast uh, China has and still is growing and progressing. Even though there's issues with tariffs, even though there are issues with their economy right now, their housing bubble, it hasn't really stagnated at all. Like the growth is still quite prominent, and they're going through their first somewhat like a recession right now. But like it had 20 years of just straight line growth, hockey stick growth. So as every economy does, they have a correction. And what's going on now is still having a correction, but they're able to pivot. Um, for example, with EVs. For example, it's like making their own chip market. So there's really has a quote like "be water," right? Like it's kind of signifies the 1.6 well, 1.5 billion people in China. They're able to kind of navigate the waters in the way they do. Yeah.
Going back to what you said about rap in Mandarin and how when you started
Yeah.
writing and how they're like, we don't know how to do this. Can you do it? So you did it. And like, what do you think made it work? Because, I have to check out these groups that you just mentioned to me, but
Oh
I
yeah.
also wondered the same thing. Like, I knew DJ Doc. I didn't know the other artists you mentioned, but I listened to HOT and well, most of my friends were Korean growing up. But how did you make it work?
Okay, so the way I did it, because I didn't really speak very fluent Chinese when I first released my albums. Um, so I used the rudimentary Chinese I knew, and then I mixed it with English. So like for example, one of my first raps was say 告诉你的 party 没有结束，半夜3点你就不会吃苦。Yeah, so like like so say 告诉你的 party 没有结束半夜3点你就不会吃苦。Like those are very basic Chinese
That
words.
is so
It,
funny. Just
you
translate to
know?
people like, who told you to party? It's 3 a.m. You're gonna eat bitter. Did I?
Yeah. That you don't know how to eat bitter. Eat bitter means basically, like you don't know how to struggle, basically. So it's like, who told you at 3 a.m. the party was already over? It's not. You just don't know. You're just a wimp, basically. You know. So yeah, I would just use like my rudimentary Chinese. As it got better, my raps got better. So, but yeah, and I was worried that people would think it sounded too simple, but in fact, it caught on, and I think young kids finally got to get a little taste of all right, this like melodic rap, this and it wasn't just talking. I mean, that's how rap started here too. It was just like like Grandmaster Flash would just talk, and it didn't sound like a song. And then as hip hop progressed, especially in like the golden era here, you could hear it really more with a melody. It sounded more like a music, like a song. And I was trying to bring that because I'm a product of the 90s, right? So I was trying to bring that type of melodic, more song structured rap to China. And yeah, it worked.
Do you have any collaborations? Are you still singing now?
Yeah, I have a song more like an R&B. I almost want to say like a mixture of like Bieber and Bruno Mars lane right now
What's
that
it
I'm
called?
doing. There's one called Plan A or Plan B. There's my favorite song I have right now is called 入场券, and then it's like a admission ticket, like admission ticket into your heart. I know it sounds really corny, but
Oh, it
yeah,
sounds deep and
that's
cool at the same time. Like it sounds poppy and deep.
yeah,
Ooh, to my heart. Nobody can go
yeah.
there. No.
So I got a few. I'm still doing songs. I'm still doing collaborations, and I do a lot of songs with like a lot of up and coming rappers still, because I still have. I'm really known as like a hip hop OG in China, so I get yeah, I get a lot of respect from the young rappers out there.
So for this ABC here, then what do I look? What do I YouTube Google later?
To Jeffrey Kung is you can still find stuff, but my Chinese name Kong Lingqi is probably easier to find a lot of my stuff. We can link that in the
I want to
bio.
find a collab with the Chengdu like artist.
Okay, yeah. There's me. I did a song with a very famous rapper called Guy Gai.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, I'll do that. Very
yeah.
interesting. I'm learning so many things here. I had no idea
Thank you.
Chengdu was like Amsterdam, so thanks. Okay, well, I skipped the Confucius music quote, but I'm going to say it anyways because I
Let's
made the
go.
effort and I love that aspect of you. Music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. Clearly, you are living and breathing the passion of music. So self-explanatory and how that's infused with your life. Next area, so this is the entrepreneurship and family
Okay, sure.
section, but the expectations of life depend upon diligence. The mechanic that would perfect his work must first sharpen his tools. So I think the diligence part you naturally just shared that within your passion and research that you did for all of the music equipment and the songwriting and everything. But I'll pause. Any of those quotes like hit you? Have you heard all the quotes? Like, do your parents talk? Did your parents talk about Confucius? Like, is it?
Okay. The Confucius thing is funny because, yeah, I knew it growing up, and people kind of doubt it too. Sometimes it's funny. So yeah, I'm the 76th generation of Confucius. Confucius, what, lived 2,500 years ago, predates Jesus, and you know, people wonder how is it possible that that you are a 76 descendant. And it's interesting because the lineage of Confucius has been well documented for the past thousands of years, and there's a reason for that. In the Ming Dynasty, people from the Kung family did not have to serve in the military, nor did they have to pay taxes. So they were very diligent of keeping that lineage tight. And by and large, everyone was still living in Shandong Qufu, Confucius' hometown. The ensuing emperors all kept this family tree intact. And it's quite a long, arduous process to put yourself in it. I think right now there are a couple, I think 2 million descendants of Confucius right now. They, in 2008 or 9, they redid it again. They updated the family tree as well. It's actually a friend of mine who did it in the Confucius Institute. My father is buried in the Konglin, which is the forest of Confucius. That you can only be obviously a descendant of Confucius to be buried there. His father's there, his grandfather's there. All my family is basically buried there. So there are ways that they can somewhat verify the lineage. And did I really grow up like people think I grew up in some temple or some shit? Like, no, I did not. But did I know about it? Yes, I did. And when I went back to China for the first time, they obviously thought it was a interesting identity data point that they wanted to promote. So it became one of my symbols, if you will, or something, one of my icons in my identity there. In fact, recently, I was recently married. That was in the articles as well. It was like 孔子后代, 终于结婚了. And then, same thing. People would question it and wonder, hey, how is this possible? But, it is. It's amazing.
Wow. No, that's really very interesting, and congratulations on getting married. I saw the
Thank you.
headlines too. It was really exciting, and I love your videos with your wife Eunice.
Thank you. Yeah. We have fun.
I've seen a couple of collaborative videos. Do you plan to do more of them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when it's fun, like when we want to, it's just kind of fun to do. But I guess it's part of what I'm doing. I'm really more entrepreneur right now, working on my brand Real Cocoa and some other brands out there. So as I'm transitioning more into business, into podcasting, etc. But we're still gonna do. I still have that fun side of me.
For sure. Okay, so tell us more about. You mentioned Real Cocoa. You're also an entrepreneur, an investor, and now you do the podcast. And then I saw something about Yellow Rebel. So like, what are the different ventures you're looking at now, and how is Real Cocoa doing?
Great. So 12 years ago, I started Real Cocoa with one of my best friends growing up, and we just basically wanted to do a better version of the coconut water that was already popular. And the main reason was, it's going to sound like a pitch, but a lot of the coconut waters out there, they say they were all natural, which they are, but they still added like vitamin C. They still added some stabilizers to make the product taste the same because they were using different factories. And we kind of set out to find, scour the world for the best coconuts and then do nothing to them. So that's kind of what our moniker is. And that's why we're called Real Cocoa, because we actually don't do anything. And I believe we are the best tasting coconut water in the world. And I know I've become a connoisseur to it. So we were in Brazil, Sri Lanka, we were in Philippines, we were in Thailand, and we ended up in Vietnam, which we find are the best quality of flavor and sweetness and etc. And we just started doing that. And again, I had never had any experience doing a consumer, packaged good. I never did any beverage, or like, as every artist has like a tequila brand today. I'm like, why don't I start something but that I find healthy? And so I started Real Cocoa, and I was just using my knowledge of branding, and because as an artist, you work with a lot of brands. So I would host gigs, I would sing theme songs or do commercials and advertisements. So I was already really well versed in that advertisement world. I worked for Ogilvy, I worked with pretty much every ad agency in China. So I really had an understanding of branding and key messaging. So that was the part of the business that I was responsible for. Like if you saw the original packaging, oh my God, it was horrific. Interestingly, I used my team to kind of rebrand the product. So I was one of my really good friends. He's shot one of my album covers. He worked for Steve Meisel. He was a fashion guy from New York. And then he told me he had the perfect guy to do the branding for Real Coco, and happened to be a fashion graphic designer. He did like MAC Cosmetics. He did a bunch of beauty brands. And that's kind of my angle. I was like, I want to make Real Coco a beauty brand. I want to make this for women. And, we want to make this a lifestyle. So we got him to do the packaging, and that's why it looks quite feminine and quite, to me, I think it's very beautiful. And I convinced him to be a partner on the team, because we started the company with only like $200,000 or something very, very, very undercapitalized if I had to do it again. So, but we got really creative with it. And and then we put together a team, and I was able to do the branding. And one other quick story that I could tell is like, the idea of fake it till you make it. I went into a meeting with a distributor in China with literally just an iPad of the design. And we said it was like we had a bottle or something, right? And we told him this was from our factory. But in fact, it was one of our competitors, my favorite competitor. I won't say who it is. And I just put it into a bottle. And I let him try it. I gave him the whole pitch. I let him see the packaging on the iPad. And I said, okay, yeah, we're doing our first production run now. And he said he liked it. He bought it. And he said, but I said, I need, half upfront deposit. And he agreed to it. So that's how we got our first production run of using the distributor's money, using someone else's coconut water on a design on an iPad. And that's when I realized, I think I may have a talent for this too. So yeah, kind of how we started with very little money. I don't suggest anyone do that, but that's kind of how we started.
That's so impressive and very creative. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, what's something you've learned from the music industry that gives you an edge in business? And I don't know if that
Okay.
really applies, or if you have something else, but
Well, yeah, I mean that,
creative.
that along with just understanding, like I said, branding, messaging, just not staying on topic, being focused. Like oftentimes entrepreneurs, you know, I call it mental masturbation. You can think of all these things and like, oh, we can go here, we can go there, we can do this. They just kind of dream, which is important, right? But once you figure the dream out, then just go narrow and deep and just really focus. And that's how all of the biggest advertising agents and PR companies, that's how they work. It's like they always focus on that one keyword and then the three pillars, and then everything feeds into that.
Yeah, sounds like a good framework. So you're still involved in Real Coco. Where can we buy it now?
So I think we're in and out of Costco right now. We're in Erewhon's. We are in Smart and Finals. We're in Aldi. Uh, we're going to be our canned version is going to be in Walmart very soon. Yeah, and there's a couple other retailers, like smaller mom and pop places that you can find it. In Calabasas, there's actually a few too. So yeah, you can see us. Kind of everywhere. Yeah, we're always expanding. So
Great. Okay, so Real Coco, your podcast show,
right.
Good Math, and
Okay, so we can talk about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Okay, so the podcast, we're still figuring out the naming of it. I just wanted to showing like Asian American excellence is really just the whole point of the matter, or whole point of the podcast. And my good friend Benny, now my good friend Benny, about last year reached out to me and through mutual contacts and said, hey, I hear you're coming back to LA. Love to do something with you. And at first, he wanted me to be an actor in one of his movies or something. And I said, that's really not what I'm focused on anymore. I'm focused on business, focused on culture. And I want to do a podcast based on Asian excellence. And, he was all for it. Yeah, so it kind of started, that was the genesis of it all. And finding the most, to me, the most influential Asian voices slash business people slash, people who move culture. And then eventually my co-host Jason Chu, who is more of an Asian activist. So yeah, it's a combination of all these different types of guests. And I will be having more guests on again and sharing their stories, because I feel like that's really valuable for our community as well. There's really no mainstream podcast out there that features a lot of what I feel, really prominent Asian voices that deserve to be heard. So it kind of started from there. A lot of Asian American issues that aren't really covered in mainstream media as well, that Jason and I like to talk about. Yeah, and it's been great because I'm more right leaning and Jason's more left leaning. But we're all in it for the same cause, right? For the embetterment of Asian Americans just at large. So, again, he's more of an activist, and I'm pretty more libertarian in the sense where more free market, and I'm more about self empowerment. Like, if this is the chessboard, right? This is the chessboard that we're given as Asian Americans. How do we make the right moves? He more is trying to change the rules of the game, change the chessboard, be an activist, change some of the laws, try to move the needle as it pertains to Asian American issues. Yeah, so we have different approaches with the same goal in mind. So I liken it to, like, if you ever watch X-Men, it's like he's Dr. Xavier and I'm Magneto, but we're still for the betterment of Asian Americans.
Well, it's awesome. And I like his lying on the couch telling us history lessons
Yeah,
format too.
yeah,
Sounds like a
super
good
cool. He's really
compliment for each
knowledgeable.
other. I know this conversation is a little bit all over the place because I have so many things I want to talk about, and
Sure.
we kind of ping pong back and forth. One thing is we're really happy to have you back in the States. I think,
Thank
I
you.
mean, even just what you started out with, like the Chinese Wikipedia versus the English Wikipedia. I mean, honestly, looking at that newspaper, I was like, I don't know how to read this. like,
Yeah.
I was like trying to use my like Google, lens and translate to figure out what it's saying here. But one, what what motivated you to move back? And then two, you had a lot of notoriety in China. You still do. You're very OG there. And how did you must have experienced some sort of prejudice, not Chinese enough over there, Chinese here, but inside grew up in
Yeah.
Northridge with not that many Chinese friends. So two questions.
Okay. So the main reason I, took I don't want to say hiatus on my singing career, but it was really more, I was focused on Rococo, and my interests expanded beyond hip hop. I had a radio show there. It was like the first hip hop radio show of its kind. I was rapping. I was in the clubs every night. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. That lifestyle for me is taxing, and really it was. I felt I already gave everything I could to Chinese hip hop, that culture. So it was time for the kids to take over and kind of run it. So it was really a mixture of that and my interests really going into business, politics, business, kind of a little more, and that was the main stimulus for me to come back and focus on a podcast instead of trying to be a celebrity and trying to be an actor like Benny wanted me to do. I was like, no, I'm not chasing that anymore. I'm just more interested in entrepreneurship, Asian American leadership, the businesses that they've started, and yeah, that was the main reason for it. And obviously, coming back to do that, doing things in my English, doing things with Next Shark, with Rebel Yellow, it was really much to me a good pivot slash next step in my life. And, a lot has changed since I've lived in China and come back to America. The whole wave, the K-pop wave, like us as Asians being more prominent in media here, the Simu Lius of the world. I felt it was the right time. So I decided to do that. And, it's interesting because I offer I'd like to think a fresh perspective because I lived in Asia for such a long time. And oftentimes people here see things only through one lens. Although, people like to think that, oh, there's the left, there's the right, there's Fox News, there's MSNBC. It's actually still, everyone thinks it's this far apart, but it's actually like this far apart. And there's a whole side of news or a whole perspective that everyone kind of misses out on. And I'd like to think that I don't participate in this side, I participate in this side. And I can offer, like I said, a fresh perspective on a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, you definitely can. And I mean, this was on the more social media front, but I know you had a video on Instagram talking about the Red Notebook and why everyone was so enamored with that when TikTok was banned. And so I'm really looking forward to reading and listening
Yeah.
to more of your content.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that was a funny thing because people didn't get like why Red Note is so nice. I'm like, well, if it's censored basically. So like, the difference between TikTok, everyone, there was this theme about, oh, TikTok is a Chinese app brainwashing children here, right? And it's just smut TV. And they're right about the brainwashing part, or they're right about the smut TV part, but it's not done intentionally. It's actually done because the algorithm feeds you what you want to see, right? But in China, the algorithm is not allowed to put a lot of those type of content on social media. So it's not just TikTok. It's Red Note, it's TikTok, it's Weibo, it's Bilibili. Everything is censored by China. And obviously, if that's the case, then those social media platforms will be sending or giving you a different type of content, much more healthy, more educational, much more positive. They ban vulgar comments, bad words. They ban all of that, right? So if that's what you're saying that you want, right? You want TikTok America to be more like the Chinese version of TikTok Douyin, then you're actually arguing for censorship. And if that's the case, which I agree with, actually, I feel like American media is, especially online, free speech is too free. Because growing up, when we watched TV, there was some, norms. You couldn't cuss. There was no nudity. You couldn't be overly violent on NBC. That's normal to me, right? That's quote unquote censorship, right? I feel like the internet needs that. So if you're arguing again for the Douyin Chinese version of TikTok, then yeah, I agree with you. Call your senator, right? Change the laws. Make social media somewhat censored for different age groups, or even just for anyone, just for the public to consume. Why not? But yes, if you want smut content, if you want nudity, if you want vulgarity, yeah, you have the option to watch that, just like you could watch a rated R movie, right? But at least there's some type of structure around that. Anyways, that's my
No, that's
see.
one.
This is what I mean. I get on my soapbox.
So 20 years in China, I'm sure
Yeah.
when you're starting out mixing the English, wrapping in both, Chinese and mixing the English in there was some pushback. And I don't know if you were censored. How did you deal
Oh,
with that?
all the time. Okay, so yeah, I was censored in China many times. Everyone is. So everyone's lyrics are censored, right? So basically, but it sounds bad, right? But it's basically you just have to get things approved before they get, just like a script. You have to get approved. You like any song lyric, you have to get approved. On my radio show, I towed the line. I'll tell you that much. So I got my slapped on the wrist many a time of well, not dissimilar to the FCC here, when like Howard Stern was just starting, right? So like that there was that push and pull, if you will. For me, as it pertains to being an ABC, it's there, American Born Chinese there. Yeah, for sure there was some trepidation from my audience at first, right? Some people are really enamored with the American born Chinese phenomenon. Some people are very against it, right? Like, why did you go there? Or, you're not Chinese enough. And
More one versus the other, or just a mix?
it's a mix. Like, people think, some people think, oh, you're a foreigner lover or something, to people like, oh, you love anything foreign. But then there are other people who, I would say, I don't want to say half, but I would say that China likes to, as a whole, likes to learn from the West, but doesn't want to be the West, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So as long as I stayed true to my Chinese roots, I was accepted, and which I am, because I make no misconceptions that I am American. Like, I'm American, but look, if you're gonna Google an American, it's not gonna look like me, right? So I have no qualms with that. So I get it. I'm a Chinese American. So I guess we live in this kind of like gray area. And to me, like, yeah, I identify actually more with Chinese than American sometimes. It's culturally, at least. Maybe not with my nationality or identity, but I feel like culturally, I actually do oddly, maybe because I lived there for so long, identify more as Chinese. But at the same time, they don't think that of me. They think I'm very American, right? So, my wife told me this term called third culture kid, TCK, and I think I just pretty much embody that.
Mm.
Yeah, which is okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
not having a home, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. No, it's so funny that you mentioned the studying the West, don't be the West, because my last quote with Confucius is study the past if you would define the future. Not that,
Hmm.
the West is the past and China's the future,
Sure.
maybe, but
Well, I mean,
well, looking to the future then, like what kind of I feel hesitant to say this word legacy because it's such a big word and
sure.
we still have a lot of life to live, hopefully.
Yeah.
But what kind of legacy do you hope to live, especially for younger Asian American creatives or just Asian Americans in general, like coming up behind you?
I'm really hoping because, okay, if people can learn anything from me, I hope it's not a skill, but it's really just call it bravery, call it balls, just kind of just go for it. Because, again, I didn't come from a family of musicians. I never started a beverage brand ever. I never started a radio show ever. I never lived in a music studio. Everything that I've done in my life has just been I wouldn't say on a whim, but has been a risk. It's just been something that I've never done before, and I would encourage, and I hope I can even interview these people one day that there are trailblazers, there's pioneers, there are people who just because it has never been done before by an Asian doesn't mean that it can't be done. Um, and I hope I am able to at least share my story with everyone and give them that inspiration, these younger generations, to go, hey, you know what? I am going to start this, new AI company, right? This new, application layer on these LLMs out there. Let me try that. I want to produce, my first short or, a TV show and try to sell it to Netflix, or I want to, start a new brand that, maybe a peanut sauce company that no one has really done in a cool way here. That's really the legacy I would like to impart on my fellow Asians.
That's awesome. I see a book in the future for you somehow. Thank you for, talking to me today. Like before we sign off, like please share how people can find you.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey P. Kung. Those are my socials. The Jeff Show, Good Math Podcast. Yeah, you can find me there. But I'm mainly on Next Shark and Rebel Yellow, so you'll see me there. That's the easy way to find me. Um, and yeah, just Jeffrey P. Kung on IG. Hit me up.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Priscilla. That was great.
Awesome.